80% of buyers to most organisations only attend once per year, and the overwhelming majority, well, they don't have a future booking. If most buyers are only attending once per year, does that mean our products and tactics to drive frequency, like subscription, membership, and multi-buys, are broken? Welcome to Leading the Way. So we'll start with the topic of subscription, because the sector is telling us subscription is dead and has been arguably for a long time. And maybe membership, maybe the ROI on membership cannot be cash flowed. So what's really going on here? What is really happening here? Do we want something different? Is that the reason? Or are subscriptions dead? Do we need to think differently about it?
I laughed because do you know how many years I've had this conversation? Subscription has been dead for 30 years.
Years?
Yeah. We have spent a lot of time writing and talking with each other about this topic and with our clients too. And I'll just start off by saying subscription is a tactic. It is not the point. And there are lots of ways to get frequency with customers. It's a really damn good tactic. It is good in its math. And whenever I talk to people in the field, I say, look at the math of the tactic. What are the renewal rates? What's the average order size? What's the growth trajectory?
No, we don't have subscription in the UK, Brad.
Right.
I mean, not in a few organisations there is still some, but membership is the driver and it drives frequency, but not at the levels that subscription does. And yet do we even focus on frequency? Is it even a metric that we talk about outside of subscription?
It's not as common a conversation in the UK. We care about frequency in the work that we do there, of course. And yes, we find that those who are participating in membership schemes do tend to be our more frequently attending audience members, but not often enough are organizations putting these two things together to really demonstrate, here is what we want you to do. Here's the best way to engage with our organization is to both be a member and to be a more frequent attender. And so what are the campaign structures and the benefit structures and the communication structures we need to put around that to really make sure those two things are happening intentionally, and we're just not being okay with the fact that they happen, rather organically happenstance at the moment. There's a chance to really turn up the volume on it. Yeah.
Eric, you're having conversations all the time about what's next. What's the next tactic? What's the next model? What's the new thing?
We all want the next big, shiny thing because things that stay around too long, we feel they get stale and we're bored of them and we don't want to put as much energy because there must be something better right around the corner. There's always got to be something better than what we're doing for whatever reason. So I actually call it the hate watching of subscriptions. We're so ready for this model to go away that we're the countdown is on for it. But it's super interesting thinking about 2024 was the first year since 2018 that subscription growth, revenue and numbers, units were actually up from pre-pandemic levels. So something has turned a corner and perhaps our audiences are finding out about the next shiny thing, which may have to some degree existed already because fixed subscription is going up. But there is some new that's happening, perhaps taking a page out of the UK book, but memberships or getting into a model of allowing or putting you on a path of greater frequency through membership instead of having to subscribe to a seat in a venue, but having a membership that says, I can go when I have the whim to do it as long as there's inventory. More organizations, at least in North America, are leaning into this model and seeing success with it.
I think it's hysterical, the hate watching.
Yeah.
Sports teams don't hate their season ticket holders. They are not looking for ways to get out of selling season tickets. And the field has... our company started in the US and then expanded to Canada and then the UK. And so now we've got a variety of, situations to be looking at and reflecting on. But the field writ large has experimented with flex vouchers, memberships, choose your owns, fixed seat subscriptions. What else? What am I missing? Loyalty
Flex
points.
passes.
Yeah, there's all of these models out there that we have over the past 20 years experimented with. It's not like We haven't. There's a reason why subscription membership in the UK, question mark. The math, doesn't the math have to guide this conversation?
But what are we, with all of these experiments, what ultimately are we trying to do? Find the nirvana of so much revenue that we don't have to worry about it anymore? Why the desire? Why the desire for new and different? If the math underneath
For us
plays
or for
out,
the field?
For the field. Like if underneath the math plays out, you know, I have $1 million of subscribers I can rely on for why would I want to kill it?
Well, we don't like our subscribers. Let's start with that. In the United States,
Why don't we like them?
we don't like them because we don't like who they are. In the United States, I'll speak for Americans.
Yeah.
And especially post or in the middle of the pandemic, there was a lot of justifiable reconciliation, social reconciliation happening. And so, gosh darn it, we're gonna loosen the soil and shake up some of the infrastructure here so that new people who look different than the traditional owners of seats, owners of access, so that's destabilized. I understand that. How do you both create an environment? You did this. How do you create an environment where inventory is made available for different people? And in fact, they're prioritized alongside or in different ways so that we can both and this thing. To either or this thing, can be financially ruinous, actually.
I do want you to say a bit more about that because I think we don't understand the math or we don't talk about it enough. I think about even when the data points around 80% of databases don't have a future booking. The fact that most people do not attend once a year, they are shocking data points when we present them to people. And so I think sometimes it's easy to forget why frequency and why these tactics are so crucial for recurring revenue and stability. Why should we care about it? Why, if you're running an arts organization today, why should you care about the recurring revenue?
Because you're so damn tired of the annual budget gap, and the only way to get in front of it, it's the same in our business. The only way to close that gap reliably is to create revenue streams on which we can count more reliably.
Well, you can budget more effectively. You can perhaps invest and think about growth if you can count on something that gives you a spoonful of confidence that allows you to take that step forward. But think about, like, we create relay races that force people out of creating frequency with us. Like, we renew all these subscribers to some date, and then we put acquisition on sale. So we don't allow people who might want to buy at a certain moment in time do it. We're going to take that off sale. So you can't actually you can't do that, Jill. You're not welcome right now.
We do have all these rules. These campaign timelines are the way that we do it around here.
And we treat some frequency tactics as second-class citizens. We treat things like CYOs and flex passes as second-class, as lesser than, when really they can be delivering well above average frequency. They may actually be reaching more people in some cases, particularly in acquisition, where we're seeing the fastest growth in acquisition in subscription-like products is within the more flexible products. We're seeing declining acquisition in the fixed traditional. Renewal rates are remaining very high. There is some growth there, and there's exceptions, of course. Some organizations are doing exceptionally well on acquiring new subscribers into fixed subscriptions. However, across the board, the flexible option is valuable, but we have downplayed these because they don't deliver the thing, again, that the organizations put their own budgets and their own cash flow at the center, prioritizing these. The fixed pay up front for an entire season has become a drug that organizations' cash flows are hooked on. We have to get that amount of revenue at this point in the year or our cash flow doesn't work. And so which means having a kind of flex option or allowing people to have more building frequency over time as they go becomes less important if I'm not capturing all of that revenue right up front. It's why we can't have like monthly models, right? When we talk about subscription, we actually use a word and a format of a word that doesn't even apply in most people's day-to-day lives of how they think about a subscription, right? Nobody pays for Netflix an entire year upfront all at once. You pay monthly, you access it as you go. That is what they think about as a subscriber when they are subscribing. But we couldn't possibly undo that. It would be too disruptive to financial.
They do in sports. So it's not for an event-based model.
Yeah.
I do pay up front, but I take your point. How we both socialize, market, invest in different mechanisms. And I think we also don't understand the differences in demographic preferences. Younger people must and want to have more flexibility. It doesn't make them second-class citizens. In fact, when you talk to people who are doing these monthly models and what the frequency with which they attend and the renewal rates, as long as we get that credit card stuff worked out, is quite powerful.
I think the important place for us to focus here and for people watching to think about here is this point around frequency. We're talking about, rightly, all of the different tactics, but I think the first step for us truly is to understand the benefits of frequency. And yes, there's the cash flow hook of subscription, the flexibility, the fact that younger people are coming into, and I'm seeing it in fixed seat packages actually too. Why underneath all of that? Because all of these different models could unwind frequency and it could be very crucial to that organization's sustainability. But there are other things, lower marketing investment, perhaps their ability to move into honey products.
Yeah, how would I ever know about honey if I didn't have a subscription or a choose your own or a membership that gave me a pathway into having that? Because it's presented as part of my package.
But is the bottom line though that we need to believe in frequency and that we need to invest for frequency? Is there a challenge? Are we understanding what it actually does, these different tactics?
What it actually does is it increases customer value.
Right.
And increased customer value, particularly, we're talking about frequency of ticket or event experiences. Increased ticket or event experiences is the best, most reliable path to create additional revenue streams around membership and around philanthropy. You're not going to build donors. You are not going to build members by having a bunch of people who may become once a year or once every other year. You will not have a donor base that way. You will have a donor base. I'm not even talking about subscription. You won't have donors if you don't have frequency. You won't have membership revenue. In the UK, where many organizations don't have a single season on sale, they have rolling seasons throughout the year. They don't have fixed seat subscriptions because they don't have the same kind of rhythms of their business cycles and their business models. They don't have the same opportunities to retain 100% of the ticketing revenue. A presenting house is much more common of a business model in the UK. They're getting fractions of every pound spent on a ticket, but they get 100% of membership revenue. They get 100% of philanthropic revenue, and the pathway to that reliable, repeatable, sustainable revenue comes through frequency.
Yeah. You'll remember the name Danny Newman and the book Subscribe Now. And the argument he made about the fickle single ticket buyers versus the loyal subscribers. But the reason, and I wonder, going back to a conversation we had about programming honey and magnets, if we have people who are interested in something that trust the brand, I think that's the right word, trust the brand enough to experiment with an artistic leader, that requires a base of customers who are willing to go along on that ride. So the reasons might be you want the ability to experiment and have a group of people that will experiment with you. It requires people who trust the brand, and the way to grow that trust is to increase frequency of experience and exposure, just like dating. And to Brad's point, Eric's, the recurring revenue, whether it's through membership and philanthropy, and that's what I keep in the UK or in Canada and the US, it's about, building recurring revenue streams It's the same thing. It's just that there's more of that income that's kept in North America.
Is the reason, why is this discussion happening at board level? Like, do we understand the mechanics of the finances and how this is showing on the actual budget?
This is why I think we have begun to talk about recurring revenues rather than the tactics of subscription. It's not happening. It's not happening at the level it needs to. Leaders must bring this concept of recurring revenues in their more than 1 year planning, y'all. 3-year planning. How many of the people we talk to do 3-year planning as a matter of course? I mean, I could, one hand, maybe.
How many people could tell you how many multi-buyers they have in a season? They could tell you how many subscribers they have.
They're obsessed about the number of subscribers without actually quantifying the pipeline. And they just assume, in this year-on-year growth, when we're only going year to year, so often the conversation is, well, because everything I have to get more every year. I just have to keep growing, of course, right? Which we can challenge. But if the point is I need to grow every year, I just need to increase subscription by 10%. They're doing this often without actually thinking about what's the pipeline that's feeding that. Right. Have we had the right number and the right kind of balance of magnet and honey shows that allow us to build people? It takes a couple years to become a multi-buyer. You don't go on a first date. We talk about this, like, we're gonna like really hammer in this dating analogy, right? But you don't attend for the first time in one season and then automatically become a full season fixed seat subscriber the next. And that's where my new subscribers are going to come from. It's a multi-year process. We've got to manage and measure this pipeline of who are going to be our future subscribers into what flavor of frequency tactic that our particular organization deploys.
But this that you're describing, I wonder how many board members really understand that by signing up for being on the board of XYZ organization, that the same kind of questions they're asking in their own business, they might need to be asking in this. That if I'm the CEO of an arts organization, I have to attend to these really important financial planning metrics. Really.
Well, it makes you like, what does the board packet even look like and what information is being shared with them? That sort of focuses where your attention is. So if you were to actually talk about pipeline strength and multi-buyer rates, and to Brad, your good point, we saw it in the rhythm of repeat attendance study that we did, that 18 to 24 months is a likely time that somebody comes in and has just their second experience. So you're not getting that all done in one season. You have to have a multi-season approach to budgeting, to resourcing your team in terms of not only dollars, but how people's time is being spent, and being able to then view that lens of growth in multiple years. When we always, oh, thank God the season's over so we can move on. Can't we just take the summer off so we can move on? Like, I want to let all of that go. And it's really hard when we think in 12-month, very closed increments once that month is over. How do we get ourselves into a multi-year view?
This is why subscription feels dead. Right? It feels dead because not that the tactics don't work or that people don't value having multiple experiences in a shorter than average amount of time, that we can't grow that. What is dead is the way we talk about it. What is dead? We put it to bed. We have not allowed it to change. We put it in stasis. It's like in a cryogenic frozen chamber from 1985 this is what subscription means. This is how we talk about it. This is how we measure it. That is dead. Like that is frozen, not the intention or desire or opportunity to increase frequency within our audiences. And so the ways we talk about it in budgeting with the board, the different product lines and tactics that we
to his point, the way he renews it. Like
the way you renew it.
You think about what you allow people to get access to and these seasonal frames we put on them. Like, you can't, we're at the end of a season. Are we done with subscription selling? We're done, because we can't package it up anymore. Well, we already know what next season's going to be. Why are we not enabling people access? We put these constraints.
Systems and processes.
There's not enough time and attention, staff or money, put against this frequency thing. We over-prospect and under-retain. We've said it since the beginning of time. We do not spend enough time and money focused on frequency.
So while we have the discussion about subscription dying, there is also this reality that we've all discussed here, which is that 18 months, most people do not have another attendance within 18 months.
Yeah.
We've got to focus, folks watching this have got to focus, it sounds like, in lots of different places. I must look after first timers. I must focus on people coming back for their second visit. I must focus on my subscription renewal rate. I must make sure I've got a pipeline for new subscribers. I must make sure that my subscribers donate as well. I must make sure that subscribers are upgrading their package price. I must make sure that my pricing is... How do we focus? Where should the attention be? If frequency is the driver for recurring revenue, for sustainability, and I have all of the ways that you've described, we know that our teams are stretched, and we know that budgets are being, because it's seen as an expense rather than an investment. Where should we focus? Like, where should the attention be? What would you recommend someone right now that's maybe not looking at their database through the lens of frequency? Where would you recommend they focus their attention?
Just getting them back a little sooner. Recency is the driver to frequency. You don't have frequency without recency. So closing the recency gap, going from 18 months to 12, going from 12 to 9, all of a sudden, that's inherently building frequency. We can close those gaps. We can just start to think more intentionally about just getting more people coming twice. Right? We obsess over how many people are coming to see everything that we do, and they are amazing and they are loyal, and yes, they are, and in many ways ideal. Although we may hate them at times, we can't live without them. Right? At the same time, but also recognizing they are such a small proportion of the relationships that we have to manage to do everything that our organizations need and want to do. How do we just get more people coming twice? How do we make that a metric that we care about, something that we measure? This multi-buyer rate works in the UK, works in Canada, works in the United States. How do you just get more people coming to 2 things? How do you get more people coming to 3 things? And making that a really clear priority within the organization. It all flows from that, right? That builds your pipeline for whatever kind of frequency tactics you've got, whether it's subscription. It builds a pipeline for membership. It builds a pipeline for donation. Frequency, it starts with frequency, but to get frequency, we close the recency gap.
And this has to be an organization-wide conversation. Right. Like what are we trying to achieve as an organization, and how are we discussing and measuring that and reporting it back organization?
So are our staff structures set up to enable this? We have, you just referenced, we have a marketing department, we have a box office team, we have a development team, and we have one group of patrons on our CRM systems that are in various different swathes of relationships, but we have different departments that have different needs of that database. Are we setting ourselves up for what you're describing here? In the way that in the job titles that we have, and in the department names that we have, and in the separate budgets that we have in those different departments?
Before we go there, the thing that occurred to me when he asked this question, and as you were talking, was about the way that we approach helping our clients establish priorities. And it's something that makes me, as I was listening to you, it was making me sad because the environment in which the field operates today is under so much stress, and there's so much pressure for the revenue, and there's a lot of staff churn. And we cannot do everything at once. So 2 things came to mind. One is getting more comfortable with, and this takes leadership and it's really hard, getting more comfortable with not doing everything. It's singularly the most difficult conversations I think we have with the field. Stopping doing some things, and then acknowledging we don't have to do everything each seasonal cycle. We can focus on 2 or 3 things. And data will help us know what the most acute issue is. So if it's frequency, then might it be one other thing? I remember Arena Stage was at an executive summit with us. It was pre-pandemic. And we were looking at their data, and the man, Edgar, who was running it at the time, said, I'm going to make my leadership objective this cycle growing the number of subscribers who also donate. That's it. That's our objective this year. And I think there's some simplicity and maybe relief in saying, we're going to pause doing, maybe not stop doing, we're going to pause doing for a year or two, these things, and we're going to focus on these other two things while we're also having to make revenues work. I want it to not feel so overwhelming, and I think there are ways for it not to. And then, of course, we've got the way staff are structured. So I don't know if that's a good segue, but
it's right, because the metrics that we're choosing to prioritize, as you described, Jill, are really important. And it makes me think of work with North Carolina Symphony, where over time we've worked to develop shared KPIs between the marketing and the development team.
Yeah.
They're shared.
yes.
Their performance evaluations at the end of the year are influenced by these shared KPIs. And one of which, for example, it's about stitching together these relationships and these different teams and revenue streams. But for example, one of them is the marketing team has a target to deliver a certain number of donor-ready patrons. We've established what that definition is. It can be counted in the database. It can be measured. But it is marketing's job to develop donor-ready patrons who are then, that number is being influenced in setting KPIs around the development team about what their acquisition rates are going to be, what their average gift sizes are going to be. So there is a clear understanding that if marketing is not delivering donor-ready patrons, development's success is going to be impacted, or development is going to have to find other ways in order to achieve their KPIs if their colleagues in marketing are not able to hit the metrics around creating enough donor-ready patrons to grow their donor pool. But these are shared metrics that are talked about every month, that they're held accountable to by their leadership. And so these are examples in which I think that's an outlier in my experience.
Yes.
That way of working on both sides of the Atlantic is an outlier, to be honest.
That person who leads that, and there are others like this who've said, this matters to me as a leader. And I am willing to experiment and try and fail and try again with new ways of organizing people to get at this result. But you raised the budget issue, and you said they have metrics that they have to manage together, because budgets create incentives for me to focus on my ticketing revenues and for you to focus on your philanthropic income. And I might be, the more Machiavellian leaders over time have created incentives and gamesmanship between the two. I think those days are gone, but still the budget is an incentive system.
There are likely marketing and development directors watching this who don't have a great relationship with their peer. And so how do we use data to help folks identify what is the right next step? Once you've got that data in front of you, say you gave that example of subscriber donor crossover, but how do we get aligned as a team around what actually is the right next step for that patron? Is it as simple as frequency or doing that thing again? How do we decide strategically what the right next step for someone's relationship is once we've got the reality of that data from the database?
It will require colleagues agreeing where to focus. The data can help guide that, right? Analysis can help say, okay, for our organization, we need to put more attention into multi-buying, or we need to put more attention into donor subscribers or members going from ticket buyers into membership. And where we've seen this work well is starting to imagine these individual patron journeys collaboratively as teams, and quite literally flow charting them out together to understand, to answer that question, at what point along a season or along a campaign is this particular segment on a ticket buying part of the flow chart, or do they move into the philanthropic part of the flow chart? But it's not about that there is a development flow chart and a marketing flow chart. Right. There is a patron flow chart of a particular segment or behavior that we've prioritized and elevated. That is one flow chart that lets both teams know, okay, when they do this, we invite them into that. When they've done this behavior, then they're into this particular path of falling into this next campaign that we have. That is co-created and shared, is what we've seen in organizations. And that again is about bringing them to the table, whether they're sharing KPIs or they're sharing the design of customer journeys throughout the course of a year. At some point, we are going to have to break down these silos and break down this competition and break down this us versus them mentality between marketing and development and say, it's our patrons. These are our relationships, and we know we only have so much time to move people across from first timer to second timer to subscriber to donor to member. So we have got to work together, whether that's at the campaign level, whether that's at the KPI level. But And that again will take leadership mandating it sometimes, right?
You know what though? I think we are starting to see there's a mindset shift that is required for the field. In the middle of the pandemic, we talked about 2030. That's around the corner.
Oh my gosh.
Whether it's 2040 or a 21st century mindset, but modernizing our thinking about how to run our institutions is no longer new. It's a requirement now. And we are having more conversations where executive leaders are saying, these folks need to be together. And how that patron services office works with, and how can we join up our database analysis so that we're all understand. More and more leaders are saying, yep, I know, I gotta sort this out. And nobody has it completely sorted, meaning there's not one way. This is the way to do this. Culture, business model. But leaders today, it's not cutting edge to say we have to work together on behalf of the customer. It is a must practice now. And I'm seeing more leaders who are saying, yep, I know that. I just don't know totally how to do it. And a lot of experimentation is required.
Test and learning is necessary in all of that.
Okay, well, folks, it's time for us to play another game. This was another great discussion. And this one is Would You Rather, Arts Edition. So prepare yourselves and we will make some decisions together. Welcome to Would You Rather. Team, I'm going to give you a couple of options and you're going to have to figure out which you'd rather. You're going to have to make a choice with these strategic dilemmas, we'll call them. So let's go for the first one. You're going to write A or B on your paddles, okay? So would you rather have 4 single ticket buyers or 1 brand new subscriber? A, 4 single ticket buyers, or B, 1 brand new subscriber? 3, 2, 1. We have A plus, and more. And B, Jill, size matters. Tell us more about that.
But the frequency matters. So if that new subscriber is buying only 3, then I'd prefer a single ticket buyer who attends 4 times. But if the subscription package is 4 or 5 or 6, then that creates more stickiness than that single ticket buyer you're preferring.
You both want 4 single ticket buyers, 4 new single ticket buyers. Say more about that, Brad.
Yeah, I would say for now, my experience is that organizations are not paying enough attention to their pipeline for future subscribers. And so for now, I think having laser focus on attracting the right single ticket buyers who have the potential to be those, yes, more valuable, stickier relationships as a subscriber. Yeah. But right in this moment for many organizations, focusing on that pipeline strength for future subscription or future multi-buying if you're in another region is really important.
Eric?
I co-sign to all of that. Yeah, it's more potential. You've got the opportunity to grow more, the ability to move more people up the ladder. So having more volume at the front end makes a huge difference.
Okay, another strategic dilemma for you?
Okay.
We can handle it.
Okay, your next strategic dilemma. Would you A, rather spend £5,000 on acquiring new patrons, or B, spend £5,000 on deepening relationships with existing? You got to choose A or B. Time to show your paddles. 3, 2, 1. We have a consensus of B. B, with some love hearts. Eric, these love hearts, tell us about them.
Well, I love the phrase, love the ones you're with.
Exactly.
Yes, which is why I get to sit with these lovely people today. But thinking about, if we never have another new buyer come into our venues, we're going to be just fine. And so that we do need new buyers, but we have people who are getting to know us. They're on a journey of deepening their loyalty with us. And that's the future of our frequency and revenue and going to fuel where our organization goes. So we need to take care of those people and make sure they're moving up the ladder. So I'm going to invest in that growth with those people.
Yeah, I echo that.
Yeah.
You hear me say a lot, over prospect and under retain. And we do need to prospect for new audiences, but we under retain, we under love. I want to love the ones we're with.
I was thinking, I put myself in the scenario of what if this was, I went a little deeper. I got very into the role here of this dilemma as a leader and wondered, well, what if this was not just I had a choice between 5,000 pounds, but what if this was the last 5,000 pounds my organization had to spend, which made this super easy to say B. Purely from an ROI standpoint, the return on investment on that 5,000 pounds is going to be orders of magnitude better, multiplier effect better than the ROI. Exactly.
I love that frame. If it's the last 5,000 you have, absolutely.
Every time it will get a better return than the 5,000 you spent to bring in new audiences.
Yeah.
Okay, you're getting used to this, folks. Let's have another strategic dilemma. Okay, your next dilemma, folks. A, would you rather increase ticket revenue by 15% or B, increase membership retention by 5%? A or B? This looked like it was a dilemma, folks. So let's see your paddles in 3, 2, 1. B to B.
Such
A with a side of B. Eric, you are
Peter.
Eric, you are serving.
What's the book called? First Break All the Rules? Like, I'm not going to follow your rules, Stephen. I want to do both of these things, right? Because they're both super valuable to us, right? We need to grow both sides of the equation. So if I can, to use Brad's, like, how do I use my last $5,000? Can I divide that up and make a strategic choice of using the resource I have to get the most out of what I need?
So what if your resource is so tight that your team has to choose? Jill, you're going to insist on B.
I've got question marks behind it. This was a dilemma for me.
Yeah.
But at the end of the thought process as a leader, if I'm making a choice, I'm going to invest in the practices, invest in the patrons that are the stickiest to my institution, that will serve me, not serve me, that will be in relationship with me over a multi-year period.
Yeah, I agree. I actually wanted to take a really firm stand on this. And if you're imagining yourself as a leader, we can't do all the things.
Yeah.
We can't. We want to. We know we have to. All of these things are important, right? That's part of what makes this game so hard, Stephen. But because all of these are real dilemmas. You're real dills of a pickle you've got us in here, right? And so we have got to sometimes come down really boldly in a direction in order to communicate values and what's important to our team. So sure, we can't do all the things, but sometimes we've got to decide right now, we care more about increasing member retention. We'll live with the ticket buyer stuff. We'll come back to it later. Right now, bold stance, more member retention.
And the thing we know about member retention is that members typically have a higher frequency. So it's going to have a
There'll be some
flywheel
knock-on
effect.
That's right.
Yeah.
And they might refer.
They might.
Well, let's refer to the next strategic dilemma.
Okay.
Okay, your next strategic dilemma. A, would you rather have 100 first-time attendees at a blockbuster magnet event, or B, 30 returning attendees for a niche honey production? A or B? Okay, 3, 2, 1. Bees all round.
Yes.
Jill?
Returning was the key word that you used. So this frequency of attendance is something we're obsessed with, and that was the magic for me.
Brad, are we turning away 100 first-timers? Is that your choice?
Yeah, that's my choice, Stephen. I think we overvalue the low potential of first-time attendees. And there's math and maths behind this that you can look at. How many of those 100 are actually likely to come back? Yeah. What is the value of those that do versus the 30 that you know you're going to get back, and whose chances to come back again and again, or to become members or to become donors? For me, this is simple. When faced with a strategic dilemma, this is a simple one. I'm going with the higher ROI from returning customers every time.
Yeah.
Eric, is that why we can turn away the revenue? I mean, that's a short-term pain, maybe for long-term gain.
Well, you used the phrase right there, short-term.
Right.
There's also a long-term game of revenue when you think about the stickiness that honey-style programming gets to. Jill said it, like, these are returning people. They're getting to know you more, so every interaction you have with someone is like a deposit in the bank of lifetime value. So it starts to grow, and you're making that investment on it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Compound interest.
If my financials require me, in order to survive, in order to make payroll, payroll that I have to prioritize finding 100 people I have no relationship with, you're not on a sustainable path anyway. That's just a sign to me that you are not in a good place. As hard as it may be in the short term to really value and prioritize those existing relationships, if you are really make or break that we have to have that revenue from those 100 so badly, you're in a dire spot. That's not a sustainable position to be in.
Well, let's put ourselves in another position of a strategic dilemma. Here we go. Okay, folks, our next strategic dilemma. Would you A, rather convert ticket buyers into multi-buyers, or B, focus on ticket buyers to subscribers? A or B? Okay, folks, it's time to reveal your choice in 3, 2, 1. There's extensive artwork here. Brad,
like
is
that.
that a
Yeah, can you
garden
guess? Who's
trellis?
gonna guess?
The trellis.
The trellis.
Oh, it's a ladder. The
It's a
plant's climbing the ladder.
Oh man. No,
It's a hat.
It has a
None of
trellis,
those
but it has
things.
a long
Is
train
it a snake?
and some curly cues.
It's a letter A in there. So first of all, the most important thing is a letter A. And then it was actually, I was trying to, exercise my Texas roots and draw an old derrick.
It's an oil.
Right? So what I'm talking about is pipeline and drilling for oil, right?
Yeah,
and trying to understand who is going to fuel us
Yeah.
in the near future.
Yeah.
So developing those multi-ticket buyers are critically important. I was talking about pipeline before. I'll bang the pipeline drum all day. We don't pay enough attention to our pipeline. We jump right to subscription. We jump right to donation. We don't obsess about the pipeline.
Right.
Yep. Journey. The beautiful case study we have of an organization who actually went through the multi-year
years.
process of cultivating single ticket buyer to next step to the next step to the next step. And the return on that patience was so different than just treating them transactionally.
Subscriber renewal rates are higher when they take this journey from single ticket buyer to multi-buyer to subscriber versus first-time single ticket buyer asking them for that second date to get engaged or get married.
Yeah.
They might do it because they're a little crazy, and then you get divorced soon after that. So, invest in the long courtship.
Yeah.
It pays off in the long run.
Yep.
Okay, final dilemma, folks. Who on this panel would you rather go to a conference with? You've got 3 seconds. Okay, if you haven't all written my name, there's going to be a problem. 3, 2, 1. I'm going.
Oh my gosh! Hey,
I like his taste
I
in
was.
beer.
That's right. I wasn't born yesterday. When you're sitting on the sofa with the CEO, you say the CEO.
And Eric doesn't want any of us.
I've been to conferences with these people, so I'm going with Mariah Carey. And you know why? Because some of you have heard me talk about this.
You know her, do you?
Well, a friend of mine knows her, so there is an entry point. She starts our holiday season. Like, you've seen these videos she does on November 1st where she says it's time. She hits a high note while she's encased in ice. It cracks open. And we've seen ticket sales correlate to her, holiday ticket sales. She has helped jumpstart our sales coming out of the pandemic. So Mariah does not get enough love, and she deserves some love from us.
She's underappreciated.
She's underappreciated.
Mariah,
She doesn't have enough money.
Nobody
She
has
doesn't have enough
ever
hits.
said about Mariah Carey that Mariah Carey
Mariah to
under
do
the
Christmas
radar.
in July is what we
We
need.
do.
We need a
Yes.
full year-round Mariah campaign. Okay, folks, that's the end of Would You Rather Arts Edition. Thank you, team, for your decisions against our strategic dilemmas. I wonder if you would have made any different decisions in your organisation. Okay, last question for you all. I want to imagine you're recommending a box office team, a fundraising team, and a marketing team on tactics for increasing frequency. What would you recommend are the top 1 or 2 points for those teams to focus on? And I'd love to start with marketing.
This number, 80%, first of all, you've got to know out of your database, what is the repeat rate? What we know is that 80% of databases don't have a future booking. Know that, and be obsessed about tracking it. And then invite your buyers, your audiences back regularly all the time. Email, monthly newsletters. The third thing I'll say is creating a task force of ideation around how to invite people back. You will come up with wonderful tactical ideas if you're focused on moving the needle on that number.
Eric, what about box office teams?
I always think about that phrase, we're the best kept secret in our market. Everybody hates being thought of as the best kept secret in their market, right? So box office has this amazing ability to be talking voice to voice, face to face with all these customers. And that's an opportunity to say, Jill, did you know we're also doing this show? Or Stephen, I've been talking to you for months and I know that you love sitting in this section for these shows. And I was actually just looking at some of our price map or some of our seating maps, and your favorite seat is available for a show 2 months from now that you didn't know about. And I can lock you into that right now. Yeah. So the ability to share and describe and puzzle
and to get websites to do that too.
Oh my gosh, wouldn't that be amazing?
Yeah.
So the box office's ability to recommend, point people in directions, so we never hear the phrase, the reason I didn't go is because I didn't know it existed.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
And Brad, what about our friends in development?
What I've learned in working with development teams in both the UK and in North America is that they either feel like they're asking all the time or they're not asking enough. But frequency of gift is really important. Frequency of giving throughout the year. We do know that folks who give multiple times throughout the year are more likely to be retained. They are more likely to be elevated into another giving level. But we have to be really intentional and specific about who we are asking and when we are asking for those elevation gifts, for those step-up gifts, or for those second gifts. It's not every annual fund donor who's eligible, right? It's not asking all of the donors all of the time for more money. We do want to create periods throughout the year where we are stewarding and thanking and acknowledging and engaging, but we also need to find very particular moments where we are asking people to do more, to give again, to increase their giving, to support this other element of our mission that we're working towards, and to not be scared about it and to not feel anxious about asking for more or asking to do a little bit more. This is something that is pretty common within the field, is a little bit of anxiety about this. But I think part of the reason we have that anxiety is because we don't have clear rigor and strategy about when we ask and who we ask. When we can feel confident about those things, asking for more is easy. It's when we feel like we always kind of need to be asking for more that it gets uncomfortable.
Well, thank you, folks. I think there's lots to take away from this conversation. Appreciate it. And thank you for joining us. We'll see you next time.